The storm roared across the rocky coastline, waves slamming against the jagged stones below, as Captain Elena Voss clung to a slick outcrop with one hand, her boots scraping desperately against the crumbling cliff face. 40 feet below, the ocean churned with violent fury, its spray mixing with the icy rain that battered her face. Tucked tightly against her chest, secured by her free arm, was Titan, an 85-pound German shepherd, his sleek black and tan coat matted with seawater and blood from a gash across his shoulder. His amber eyes, usually sharp with focus, flickered with panic as he pressed closer to Elena. "Stay with me, buddy," she muttered through clenched teeth, her arm burning with the effort of holding them both. "I didn't make it through 2 tours in Iraq to lose you to a damn coastal trail." Elena, a retired Army veteran, felt her grip on the weathered root weakening as the wind howled louder, threatening to tear her from the cliff. Lightning illuminated the sky, casting stark shadows across the rocks. In that fleeting moment, suspended between survival and disaster, a quiet resolve settled over her. If this was the end, Titan wouldn't face it alone. 3 months earlier, Elena had returned to civilian life with little fanfare. After 12 years in the Army, including deployments as a military police K-9 handler, she'd arrived in the small coastal town of Stoneport, Oregon, with a single rucksack, a bronze star she kept hidden in a locked box, and memories that haunted her sleep. The return wasn't her choice. A roadside bomb during her final tour had left her with a partially torn rotator cuff, a fractured femur, and PTSD that manifested in sudden, suffocating waves of anxiety. The Army called it medical retirement. Elena called it being benched against her will. Stoneport wasn't home in any real sense. She'd grown up in foster care, bouncing between houses, and had no roots to return to. But the town, with its misty cliffs and quiet isolation, had been recommended by a fellow veteran who said it was a good place to disappear for a while. Elena had rented a small, weather-beaten cottage on the edge of town, surrounded by cedar trees and overlooking the restless Pacific. It wasn't much: a sagging porch, creaky floors, and windows that rattled in the wind. But it was hers, a place to regroup away from the noise of the world. For the first month, Elena barely left the cottage. She built a routine to anchor herself: dawn runs along the rugged coastline, modified push-ups to strengthen her injured shoulder, and evenings spent cleaning the place, scrubbing decades of grime from the walls. The physical work dulled the constant hum of tinnitus in her ears and kept the flashbacks at bay. Images of sand and smoke, the scream of an incoming mortar, the face of Specialist Daniel Carter, who hadn't made it out of the ambush. But nights were brutal. Alone in the dark, the memories clawed at her, leaving her pacing the floor or waking in a cold sweat, her heart racing as if she were still in a combat zone. One stormy night, as thunder shook the cottage, Elena hit her breaking point. The sound triggered a full-blown panic attack, her body reacting as if she were back in the desert, pinned down by enemy fire. She ended up crouched in the bathroom, gasping for air, her vision narrowing to a tunnel. When dawn broke, she knew she couldn't keep living like this, trapped in her own head, her skills rusting, her purpose gone. Opening her laptop, she searched for PTSD support for veterans and stumbled across articles about service dogs. They could sense anxiety spikes, interrupt nightmares, and provide a lifeline to the present. But the programs had wait lists stretching years, and the costs were beyond her reach. Frustrated, she slammed the laptop shut. Later that day, needing a distraction, Elena ventured into Stoneport's downtown, a cluster of weathered shops and cafes along a single main street. She stopped at a hardware store for paint and supplies, hoping to keep her hands busy. As she browsed, a voice called out, "Elena Voss? No way, is that you?" Turning, she saw Jenna Harper, a former classmate from her brief stint in community college before enlisting. Jenna, now managing the store, wore a bright smile and a name tag that read owner. "Jenna," Elena said, forcing a nod. She wasn't ready for small talk, but Jenna launched into a cheerful recounting of local gossip, her recent divorce, the store's expansion, the new brewery in town. Then she mentioned something that caught Elena's attention. "There's this place just outside town, Pacific Paws Recovery. They rehabilitate working dogs, Military, police, search and rescue. The vet who runs it, Dr. Clara Bennett, used to work with K9 units overseas. She fixes up these dogs, gets them back to health, and some even become service dogs for veterans. Elena's interest sharpened. Where's this place? About 6 miles up the coast near Blackthorn Ridge. Big sign out front, you can't miss it, Jenna said, studying Elena with curiosity. Weren't you a dog handler in the Army? I remember your foster mom bragging about it. Yeah, Elena said, her tone clipped. Thanks for the tip. She grabbed her supplies and left before Jenna could dig deeper into her past. The next morning, driven by a mix of curiosity and desperation, Elena drove her beat-up pickup to Pacific Paws Recovery. The facility was a sprawling, converted ranch, its main building a repurposed barn with wide windows and a cedar-shingled roof. Beyond it stretched training fields, obstacle courses, and a small medical clinic, all designed for working dogs recovering from physical or psychological trauma. As Elena parked, a woman in a rain-dampened jacket approached, her boots crunching on the gravel. Captain Voss? The woman asked, extending a hand. Doctor, Clara Bennett. Jenna called and said you might stop by. Elena shook her hand, surprised by the firm grip. Just Elena now, retired. Clara nodded, her eyes assessing but kind. Jenna mentioned you were a K9 handler. I've got a dog here who might interest you. Titan, a German Shepherd, former military working dog. He's been through a lot, lost his handler in an explosion in Syria, took shrapnel himself. He's physically healed, but the trauma's made him skittish, resistant to new handlers. We're working on rebuilding his confidence. Elena felt a pang of recognition. Sounds familiar. Clara led her to a kennel where Titan lay, his muscular frame tense but alert. His dark eyes tracked Elena's every move, not with aggression, but with wary intelligence. He's not aggressive, Clara clarified, but he's particular. Won't work with just anyone. Want to meet him? Elena nodded, crouching to Titan's level and speaking in the calm, authoritative tone she'd used with her own dogs in the field. Titan, easy. His ears twitched, and he tilted his head, studying her. For the first time in weeks, Elena felt a spark of connection, a sense of being understood without words. Before they could continue, a sheriff's SUV pulled into the lot, its lights flashing. Sheriff Tom Delgado stepped out, his face grim. Clara, we've got a problem. One of your dogs got loose during a training exercise. He's stuck on a cliff near Ravens Point, injured and panicked. Big German Shepherd, combat trained. Fire department's on the way, but this storm's making things dicey. Clara's face tightened. That's Titan. He bolted when we simulated a loud trigger sound. He's not usually like this, but the storm didn't help. Elena stood, her instincts kicking in. I can help. I've handled dogs like him in worse conditions. Delgado gave her a skeptical look, taking in her civilian clothes and the faint limp from her old injury. No offense, ma'am, but this isn't a simple rescue. That dog's in fight-or-flight mode, and that cliff's unstable after last week's mudslide. I've worked with military K9s in active combat zones for over a decade, Elena said, her voice steady. I know the risks and how to approach a traumatized dog. Delgado hesitated, then nodded. All right, but you're on your own if things go south. 30 minutes later, Elena stood at the base of Ravens Point, rain soaking through her borrowed rescue gear. The cliff loomed above, a treacherous wall of slick rock and tangled roots. 40 feet up, Titan huddled on a narrow ledge, his body pressed against the stone, blood visible on his shoulder. Clara, standing nearby, explained his history. He's trained in detection and patrol, responds to standard military commands, but he's been unpredictable since his injury. His last handler died in the same blast that hurt him. Elena nodded, calculating her approach. I'll need a muzzle for safety and a sedative to stabilize him for the descent. As the fire department set up ropes and harnesses, Elena prepared herself, slipping into the familiar rhythm of a mission. You sure about this? Delgado asked, checking her harness. That dog's not going to welcome you with open paws. I speak his language, Elena replied, tightening her straps. This is the first time I've felt useful since I got back. She began her ascent, guided by the rescue team below. The rain made every handhold precarious, but her training held firm. At 30 feet, she got her first clear look at Titan. He was a powerful animal, his frame lean but muscular, his eyes locked on her with a mix of fear and defiance. "Titan, stand fast," she called, using the command tone she knew he'd recognize. His ears pricked and he stilled, though his growl lingered. Inching closer, Elena kept talking, her voice a steady anchor. "Good boy, Titan. We're getting out of this together." At 10 feet from the ledge, disaster struck. The rock under her hand crumbled, sending her swinging sideways as debris rained down. Titan barked sharply, shifting on the ledge, which cracked ominously under his weight. "Titan, stay!" Elena commanded, her voice cutting through the storm. He froze, his training overriding panic, but the ledge continued to fracture. Making a split-second decision, Elena pushed off the cliff, using her safety line's momentum to swing toward Titan. As she reached the ledge, it collapsed entirely. She grabbed a protruding root with one hand and wrapped her other arm around Titan just as the ground gave way. They dangled together, Elena's shoulders screaming under their combined weight. The safety line had slackened, caught on a jagged outcrop. "I've got you!" she gasped, holding Titan close. His body trembled, but he remained still, as if sensing their shared peril. Below, the rescue team shouted, scrambling to reset the anchor point. In that moment, something shifted. Titan, the dog who had rejected every handler since his trauma, pressed his muzzle against Elena's cheek, a single, deliberate gesture of trust. It wasn't affection, but it was enough. Strength surged through her. Finding a small foothold, she redistributed their weight, gripping a sturdier root. "We're moving up," she shouted to the team. "Need an anchor 3 feet left." As a new rope descended, Elena secured it one-handed, her focus unbreakable. Slowly, painfully, they were pulled upward. Titan remained calm, his training holding despite his fear. When they reached the top, Clara rushed forward with medical supplies, pausing in awe as Titan stayed pressed against Elena, his posture alert but trusting. "I've never seen him do that," Clara whispered, bandaging his wound. Elena kept a hand on Titan's neck, grounding them both. "We get each other," she said simply. As the rescue team packed up, Delgado approached with a nod. "Hell of a job, Captain. Not many could have pulled that off." Elena's focus stayed on Titan. "He needs ongoing care," Clara said, glancing between them, "and he clearly trusts you. Ever thought about working with dogs like him again?" The idea took root. "Your center," Elena began. "Do you need handlers? People who know what these dogs have been through?" Clara's eyes lit up. "Are you offering?" For the first time since leaving the army, Elena felt a flicker of purpose. "Maybe I am." Back at the vehicles, the storm began to clear, sunlight piercing the clouds. Titan walked steadily beside Elena, his injury not slowing his resolve. She felt a shift within herself, a recognition of shared scars, not just hers but Titan's. They'd both been broken by war, stripped of purpose. Maybe together they could find a way forward. 2 weeks later, Elena stood in Pacific Paw's main barn, now a volunteer at the center. The facility was a haven for working dogs, with rehabilitation pools, scent detection courses, and kennels designed to feel secure rather than caged. Photographs lined the walls, dogs in combat vests, leaping over obstacles, or resting beside their handlers in far-off deserts. These weren't pets, they were soldiers, just like Elena. Clara joined her, gesturing to a photo of a German shepherd mid-leap during a training exercise in Iraq. "That's Odin. He saved a convoy by detecting an IED, lost a leg in the process, but now works as a therapy dog in Seattle." Elena nodded, understanding the unspoken bond. "Titan's ready for training today," Clara added. "His wound's healing well thanks to you." "I don't get why he trusts me," Elena admitted as they walked to Titan's kennel. "He's pushed away everyone else." Clara's smile was knowing. "He sees something in you, a soldier who knows what it's like to lose everything and keep going. That's not weakness, Elena. It's strength." Titan's kennel was a quiet space, designed to minimize stress. When he saw Elena, he stood, his posture relaxed but attentive. "Morning, soldier," she said, opening the door. He moved to her side, his presence steady and professional. Today's training focused on rebuilding Titan's confidence with loud noises, a trigger from his combat days. The outdoor course featured controlled sound cues, recorded bangs and clatters, to simulate chaotic environments. Clara watched as Elena guided Titan through the exercises, starting with simple commands to establish trust. "Titan, heel," she said, walking the course's perimeter. He followed, his focus locked on her. They approached a low platform, a test of his willingness to engage with elevation after the cliff incident. "Titan, up." He hesitated, his body tensing. Elena knelt, meeting his gaze. "We've got this, buddy." She stepped onto the platform first, then called again. This time, Titan leaped up, landing beside her with a quiet confidence. Clara clapped from the sidelines. "You two are a team already." They progressed to higher platforms, each success building Titan's assurance. At the course's tallest structure, a 5-foot ramp, Titan paused, his eyes flickering with doubt. Elena sensed his hesitation wasn't fear, but memory. Kneeling beside him, she spoke softly. "I know what it's like to freeze up, to remember the worst moments. But we survived that cliff. We'll survive this too." She stepped onto the ramp. "Titan, with me." He followed, climbing deliberately until they stood together at the top. From below, Clara called, "That's incredible progress." Elena stroked Titan's flank, avoiding his healing wound. "Good boy. Mission accomplished." Later in Clara's office, she proposed an idea. "I've been thinking about a new program, pairing traumatized dogs with veterans like you who understand their struggles. The dogs get rehabilitation, the veterans get purpose. You could lead it." Elena balked. "I'm no program director. I'm just a handler." "You were a captain," Clara countered. "You led teams in combat, managed logistics under fire. This is no different. Plus, you need this as much as they do. A mission worth your skills." The idea lingered. That night in her cottage, Elena spread Clara's proposal across the kitchen table. Titan asleep nearby. She began sketching ideas, her military precision guiding her notes. By midnight, Project Anchor had taken shape, a program to rebuild lives, human and canine, through shared purpose. The next morning, Elena met Sam Torres, a former Navy SEAL who'd lost his left arm in a training accident. His posture screamed military, even in a wheelchair. Clara introduced them. "Sam, this is Elena Voss, our lead handler. Sam's here to meet Raven, a retired explosive detection dog." Sam's eyes were guarded, but he shook Elena's hand firmly. "Just Sam now. Been out a year. Still adjusting." Elena recognized the look, someone fighting invisible battles while projecting strength. Raven, Aline Malinois, had her own scars, her handler injured in a blast that left her skittish. "She's particular," Elena warned, leading them to Raven's kennel. "Needs someone who gets her." Sam nodded, his gaze softening as he met Raven's eyes. "Sounds like we might understand each other." Elena guided their introduction, watching as Raven cautiously approached Sam, sniffing his prosthetic before resting her muzzle on his knee. "She knows," Sam said quietly, his voice thick with recognition. Over the next weeks, Project Anchor grew. Elena trained a small group of veterans, Sam, Sophia, a Marine with a prosthetic leg, and Marcus, an Air Force medic with TBI, each paired with a dog. The program wasn't therapy, it was a mission, structured like a military operation with clear objectives. Rehabilitate the dogs, rebuild the veterans. By March, the center buzzed with activity. 12 veterans and their dogs trained together, their camaraderie a stark contrast to the isolation Elena had known months earlier. Sam, now her second in command, excelled at mentoring newcomers, his bond with Raven a testament to the program's potential. One evening, a local council meeting loomed, where Clara and Elena would request expanded permits for residential cabins. Opposition came from Councilman Harold Vance, a wealthy landowner wary of troubled veterans near his properties. At the meeting, Vance's questions dripped with skepticism. How can we ensure these individuals, with their documented mental health issues, won't pose a risk? Elena stood, her voice steady. These veterans are trained professionals, not risks. They've sacrificed for this country, and this program gives them purpose. Rehabilitating dogs who've served just as they have. Studies show veterans with PTSD are no more dangerous than anyone else. What they need is support, not suspicion. Her words shifted the room's mood. The council approved the expansion, swayed by community support in Elena's clarity. Outside, Clara grinned. You handled that like a general. Captain, Elena corrected, smiling. But I'm learning. Winter gave way to spring, and Project Anchor gained national attention. A Veterans Affairs team visited, led by General Laura Mitchell, whose endorsement secured long-term funding. The program expanded to 20 veterans with plans for a second location. One April evening, Elena stood on the center's observation deck, Titan at her side. The ocean sparkled under the setting sun, and the facility hummed with purpose. Veterans training, dogs healing, lives rebuilding. Sam joined her, Raven beside him. We did good, Captain, he said. We're just getting started, Elena replied, her eyes on the horizon. For the first time since Iraq, she felt whole. Not healed, but whole. The scars remained, but so did the mission. She and Titan, Sam and Raven, and every warrior in the program were proof that purpose could rise from pain, that no one had to face the darkness alone.